Welcome to the deep dive. We take dense information, dive deep, and pull out the insights that truly matter. Today, we're tackling a fascinating new frontier, growing high-value crops, specifically saffron, right in the middle of urban India. But not in a backyard, we're talking indoor, rented spaces.
Exactly. And if you're considering this, you might think it's all about specialized lights and climate control. But as a detailed report from May 27, 2025 lays out, the real challenge, and our focus in this deep dive, is navigating the surprisingly complex web of regulations and permits required to turn that urban space into a legal saffron farm.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because transforming a standard rented premise, maybe an old go-down or a large commercial unit, into a controlled environment for saffron isn't like setting up a regular shop.
Not at all.
Our mission is to guide you through the necessary legal and administrative steps based on what the report found, so you can see the path ahead, not just a wall of red tape. It's a unique blend of agriculture, real estate, and, well, bureaucracy.
That sums it up pretty well.
So, based on the report, if someone has found the perfect urban spot, maybe in Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore, before they even think about buying a single saffron corm, where must they start?
The report is crystal clear on this.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute, non-negotiable first step is the rental agreement. It's the legal foundation for everything else.
Okay.
And the key insight here is that indoor saffron farming, in the eyes of the law, is classified as a commercial activity.
Commercial, not agricultural, even though it's farming.
Right. That classification is critical. If you're renting a space that's zoned or, intended for residential use, you cannot legally conduct a commercial activity there without explicit permission.
Ah.
So your rental agreement must specifically state that the premises are allowed to be used for commercial purposes, and ideally it should even mention indoor saffron farming.
And what's the report say happens if you try to gloss over that part, maybe thinking, oh, I'll sort it out later?
Big problems down the line. You're immediately in breach of contract with your landlord, so you're risking eviction, losing all your initial setup investment.
Right.
And maybe, more importantly, nearly every subsequent step from getting commercial electricity to registering your business requires proof of a legally approved commercial premise. So no legitimate rental agreement for commercial use. You basically hit a dead end right at the start.
Okay, so the rental agreement is the bedrock. And the report repeatedly flags a specific document related to the landlord, the No Objection Certificate, the NOC. Why is this document so powerful in this process?
Oh, it's paramount.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the landlord's formal consent for your specific commercial activity, the saffron farming.
Okay.
The report shows you'll likely need this NOC not just for municipal permissions, but also for obtaining a commercial electricity connection, potentially for police verification, and even for GST registration. Essentially, the landlord isn't just collecting rent. They become a crucial stakeholder in your business's legality.
Yeah.
Their willingness to provide this NOC and allow necessary modifications like wiring or HVAC can be a major bottleneck. It just underscores the need for total transparency with potential landlords right from the beginning.
Wow, so the landlord's sign-off impacts city permits, power, and taxes. That's far more central than I would have guessed. What other specific details does the report highlight as essential in that rental agreement?
Well, beyond the obvious things like names, property description, and that explicit clause allowing commercial saffron farming, the report stresses detailing the rent, the duration, the security deposit, and termination conditions very clearly.
Standard stuff, but crucial.
Exactly. And it also emphasizes the legal standing.
Yep.
So if the lease is over 11 months, mandatory registration is required. And remember, stamp duty varies by state MIRT. The report mentions Maharashtra as an example.
Okay.
And even for shorter leases, say less than 11 months, notarization is highly recommended just for added legal validity.
This definitely doesn't sound like grabbing a standard template online then.
Precisely. No, the report strongly advises engaging a lawyer to either draft the agreement from scratch or at least vet one you're considering.
Makes sense.
They can ensure it covers the unique needs of an agro-business operating indoors, maybe adding clauses for future expansion, clearly defining who's responsible for maintaining specialized systems like HVAC, and outlining dispute resolution. Proactive legal structuring here saves immense headaches later. Oh, and keep multiple copies. You'll definitely need them for verification steps like police checks.
All right, so you've navigated the first hurdle, secured a legally sound commercial space with the landlord's blessing, theoretically. Now you need to make that space livable for saffron. And for indoor farming, that means power, right? And lots of it.
Lots of it, yes. The report highlights that indoor saffron farming is surprisingly energy intensive. You're running powerful grow lights, you're maintaining precise temperature like 15-20 degrees Celsius and humidity, maybe 50-65% with HVAC systems, and potentially running pumps for hydroponics too.
So what are we talking, ballpark?
The report estimates even a small setup can require something like 5 to 10 kilowatts.
Whoa! 5 to 10 kilowatts for a small scale. That's significant. That's like powering a small office, maybe more.
It absolutely requires a commercial electricity connection. Trying to run that kind of high, sustained load on a residential connection is, well, it's illegal, unsafe, and frankly, unreliable. You have to apply to your local electricity board, usually providing your new commercial rental agreement and your ID.
And does that critical landlord NOC pop up again here for electricity?
Often, yes. Many electricity companies will ask for it. However, the report does include a fascinating detail. It notes that there are Supreme Court rulings that, in certain situations, allow a tenant with a valid rental agreement proving lawful possession to apply for connection in their own name without an explicit landlord NOC.
Hold on, so you might be able to bypass the landlord NOC sometimes. How often does that actually work, according to the report? Are there big downsides?
Well, the report frames it more as a potential legal route based on precedent. It underscores that pursuing it can be significantly more complex, definitely more time-consuming, and might involve legal challenges or require you to present a really strong case of lawful possession.
Okay.
It's just not the straightforward path.
Okay.
Which is why the report still emphasizes getting that NOC up front, if you possibly can.
Got it. So NOC is definitely preferable, but there might be a more complex legal avenue.
Okay.
What else is crucial about the electricity connection beyond just, getting it turned on?
Safety and adequacy are paramount. You've got high electrical loads, potentially humid environments. The property's existing wiring, the earthing, the circuit breakers, they must be professionally assessed.
Right.
The report really stresses that upgrades by a certified electrician are often necessary to handle the load safely and prevent major fire risks. And also, getting a dedicated meter, or at least a sub-meter in your name, is pretty essential for clear billing and just managing your operations.
And while we're on utilities, what about water? Saffron needs moisture to trigger flowering, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Water is critical for irrigation. Whether you're using traditional soil beds or going hydroponic, you need not just a water supply, but an adequate and, importantly, a reliable one.
Okay.
The existing connection might not cut it. You might need to put in a separate application to the municipal water authority. The report notes that an unreliable water supply directly jeopardizes your crop's health and yield, which is, your core business.
Makes sense.
And while getting the connection is step one, the report also subtly points out that thinking about water-efficient systems right from the start can save you money long-term and might even align with potential subsidy goals down the road.
Okay, so you've secured the legal space, planned for the power, thought about water. Now we deal with the ultimate authority in the city, the municipal corporation. What kind of permissions does the report say you'll likely need from them?
Yes, this is where the layers of bureaucracy really come into play. The report indicates you'll need a whole suite of approvals. First off, formally registering your urban farming initiative with the municipal corporation or the urban local body, the ULB, is often necessary, especially if you hope to tap into any potential subsidy schemes.
Right.
And this usually involves submitting what's called a detailed project report, a DPR.
A DPR. That sounds official. What needs to go into a detailed project report for, like an indoor saffron farm?
It's basically a comprehensive blueprint of your whole operation. The report says it includes details on your costs, the area you're using, your cultivation methods, inputs, expected yield, financial projections, the works.
Okay.
And the report frames the DPR not just as, a compliance document you have to tick off, but actually as a strategic planning tool. It can help you solidify your business plan, maybe even secure financing.
So proving you're legally operating a commercial farm in a potentially non-traditional zone isn't just about the rental agreement. The city itself needs to formally sign off too.
Exactly. You'll likely need a specific commercial activity license from the municipality. The report mentions examples like a license of establishment or a gumashta license, which is common in cities like Bhopal.
Right.
This license formally legitimizes your commercial use of that space, especially if it's in an area that might not be strictly zoned for typical agriculture.
And what if you need to make changes to the building itself to accommodate the farm setup, like installing racks or big AC units?
Yep, any significant modifications, adding infrastructure for hydroponic racks, installing those large HVAC units, or making any structural changes requires building plan approval from the municipality.
Okay.
And this is another point where the landlord's consent for modifications, hopefully secured way back in that initial rental agreement, becomes absolutely vital again. You see how interconnected these steps are.
Yeah, it all loops back.
And given the high electrical load we talked about, the report also flags the fire safety NOC as a critical municipal requirement. The city's fire department will need to inspect the premises to ensure you have adequate fire prevention measures. Extinguishers, detectors, proper wiring, it's non-negotiable, purely for safety.
Makes total sense. What about health or environmental considerations? Does a small farm in the city trigger those kinds of checks?
It kind of depends on the scale and exactly what you're doing on site. The report indicates that if you plan to, say, process or package the saffron threads right there, you'll likely need a health license from the municipal health department that focuses on hygiene and sanitation standards.
Okay.
And for larger operations, particularly if you're using hydroponics, where you might have, regulated nutrient solution waste, you might need to check in with the State Pollution Control Board for environmental clearances. The report highlights an important insight here. The compliance burden often graduates. It scales up based on your operations size or specific activities like processing that triggers FSSAI or large waste generation, which might trigger environmental checks. It's not always a one-size-fits-all situation.
Okay, that's a lot of city-level permits. Now, switching gears slightly, the report also mentions police verification. Is that standard for all commercial rentals, or is it specific to this type of maybe unusual business?
No, tenant police verification is actually mandatory in most urban areas across India for all tenancies, including commercial ones. It's a standard process, really just for public safety and record keeping.
Right. And how does someone go about doing that? Is it complicated?
Usually it's quite straightforward. You fill out a standard form, submit it to the local police station with copies of your rental agreement, your ID, address proof, photos, that sort of thing. The report notes there's often just a nominal fee, like maybe 100 rupees. And many cities are actually moving this online now. The report mentions online portals or apps in states like Maharashtra, mhpolice.maharashtra.gov.in, and Delhi has its Suraksha app. So it's getting much easier than it used to be. And, a key detail the report highlights is the repercussion for the landlords if they don't ensure this verification is done. They can face fines, potentially even imprisonment, if the tenant is later found to be involved in illegal activities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that legal pressure makes landlords pretty diligent about insisting on it. And for you, as the tenant, completing it promptly just signals transparency and helps build trust with them.
Okay, that makes sense. Beyond the physical location and safety aspects, what other essential business registrations does the report highlight for operating the saffron farm legally?
Well, if you plan to sell your saffron, which is the point,
Okay.
right, especially if you're processing or packaging it in any way, FSSAI registration is mandatory. That's for food safety compliance.
Right, FSSAI, got it.
Saffron is a food product after all, and the regulatory bodies need to ensure it meets consumption standards.
And what about taxes? At what point do you need to register for something like GST?
GST registration becomes required once your annual turnover crosses the prescribed threshold. For goods like saffron, that's currently set at 40 lakh rupees.
Okay, 40 lakh.
And guess what document you often need for GST registration, particularly for verifying your place of business?
Let me guess. The rental agreement.
Bingo. The commercial rental agreement, and frequently that landlord's NOC again.
Of course.
It really underscores how interconnected all these regulatory steps are and how critical that initial rental agreement choice is for everything that follows. And one last thing the report wisely suggests is commercial property insurance. I mean, think about the significant investment you're making in specialized equipment. The lights, the HVAC, maybe hydroponic systems.
Yeah, that's a lot of capital up front.
Exactly. Insurance protects that investment against loss from risks like fire, theft, or accidental damage. It safeguards your business's financial health and your ability to recover if something unforeseen happens.
So we've covered securing the legal premise, sorting out utilities, navigating a whole bunch of municipal permits and safety checks, handling police verification, and getting the essential business registrations like FSSAI and GST. That feels like quite the comprehensive map. But you mentioned earlier that local variations are crucial. The report emphasizes this, right?
Absolutely. This is a really key insight from the report. Regulations vary significantly by state and even within different cities in India. You absolutely cannot assume what applies in, say, Mumbai holds true in Bhopal or Chennai.
Hmm.
The report notes specific examples like how Punjab reportedly eliminated certain NOC requirements back in 2024, while in Tamil Nadu, you might need specific NOCs for unexpected things like, say, digital signage if you advertise on your building.
So you can't just take this deep dive, or even the report itself, as the final word. You have to actually go and verify it locally.
Exactly. The report strongly stresses the vital importance of consulting directly with the local authorities in your chosen location. That means the specific municipal corporation, the local police station, the state agriculture department.
Right?
Because regulations change, new circulars come out, and the report itself is time-stamped, acknowledging this dynamic landscape. Staying updated and verifying locally is just non-negotiable.
What are some practical strategies or tips the report offers for actually managing this entire complex process? It sounds daunting.
It can be, but the report suggests a few things. First, start the process early. Permissions can easily take weeks, sometimes even months, to navigate.
Right.
Don't wait until the last minute.
Good advice.
Second, consult legal experts, especially for that all-important rental agreement. Get it right from the start. Third, maintain meticulous records, copies of every application, every document, every communication. You'll need them. Engage financial professionals, like chartered accountants, for GST and tax planning right from the outset. And finally, build a local network of experts, lawyers, CAs, maybe even a local consultant who's familiar with the permit process in your specific city.
Yeah.
They can hugely streamline things and, as the report notes, might even help you uncover local subsidies, sometimes up to 75% in certain schemes, or incentives you wouldn't find otherwise.
So, based on this detailed report, we've taken a deep dive into the regulatory landscape for setting up an indoor saffron farming operation on rented urban property in India. It's clearly a multi-layered process, isn't it? Starting with securing a very specific type of rental agreement, navigating the recurring need for the landlord's NOC, moving through obtaining commercial power, tackling various municipal permits, including commercial licenses and safety checks, and finally, handling the necessary business registrations like FSSAI and GST once you're actually ready to sell your product.
Yes, absolutely. Diligence, careful planning, and, frankly, a willingness to engage proactively with local authorities and professional experts are essential for building a legitimate, sustainable urban farming business based on the framework the report outlines.
You know, it feels like this structure, while undeniably complex, maybe even a bit intimidating, also acts as a sort of filter. It ensures that these ventures are properly established and, in a way, maybe legitimizes urban agriculture as a serious business activity within the city.
That's a great perspective. I think you're right. The existence of such a detailed, albeit complex, regulatory path signals that authorities are recognizing and attempting to integrate innovative urban land uses like indoor farming into the urban fabric responsibly. They're trying to address potential concerns around commercial activity, safety, utilities, and so on.
So what does this all mean for you if you're considering this path? It seems navigating the regulatory framework isn't just a side task. It's as fundamental as understanding saffron cultivation itself. You need to be part farmer, part bureaucrat almost.
That's a fair assessment.
It raises an important question for the future, I think. As cities continue to evolve and these non-traditional businesses like indoor farming become more common, will urban regulations become more streamlined and specialized to actually encourage this kind of innovation? Or will the existing layers of bureaucracy simply become more complex, maybe even harder to navigate? Something to ponder as you consider the unique challenge and opportunity of growing valuable crops right in the heart of the city.